Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Mr. Logan, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Deputy Walker. May you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Hi, my name is Deputy Alexander Walker. In the Sheriff's Office for about a year now.
Tell the jury about your education and training and experience in law enforcement.
So I graduated from Florida State with my bachelor's with a minor in psychology. I finished my training the winter of 2023. I've been with the Sheriff's Office for about a year, only about a half a year by the time of this incident.
All right, Deputy Walker, what shift did you work at that time?
I worked on the Delta night shift.
Now, specifically, I'm going to direct your attention to Sunday, September 8th of 2024. Did you respond to a crime scene in Polk County?
Yes, sir.
And describe to the jury what kind of call you got and what you did.
The call I got was a assist EMS, what we call as a 50 Alpha for an AED assist, a major medical assist. First off.
Approximately how long did it take you to get to the scene from where you responded from?
Approximately 5 minutes from where we were at.
When you arrived on scene, what did you do first?
First thing I did when I entered the scene was I announced myself as Polk County Sheriff's Office, wanted the subjects inside to make themselves known to our presence so that if there was any harm, weapons, anything like that, they would be put away from harm's reach.
Did you go in by yourself?
No, sir.
Who did you go in with?
I went in with Deputy Sheriff Pibernick.
And when you announce your presence, do you do that loudly? Do you shout it?
Yes, sir.
So anybody within the household that's alive would be able to hear it?
Yes, sir.
Now, as you enter, did you enter the door by the carport?
Yes, sir.
And when you entered, what did you notice about the first room that you entered?
First room that I entered, I noticed a pair, or at least a single AirPod, as well as the AirPod case on the ground.
Besides that being on the ground, did the house look like it was in order and nicely put together?
Yes, sir.
Where did you go from the living room area?
From there, I heard a male subject inside the house shouting, "I'm inside the kitchen."
What did you do next?
I then proceeded to the kitchen, and while walking to the kitchen, I saw a knife, a blood-covered knife, over in front of the washer and dryer to my left. I saw the subject in the kitchen.
Where was the subject positioned in relationship to the deceased lady?
The subject was positioned over the deceased's head.
Did you find that odd at all?
Yes.
Why?
For doing normal CPR and everything, assuming everybody's been taught and seen videos on doing CPR from beside the person, never over top their head, possibly blocking airways.
So when you saw the defendant above her head, what did you do next?
At that point, I told Deputy Sheriff Pibernick to stay with the subject as I went outside to confirm for EMS that it was clear for them to come inside.
Do you see that person in the house, excuse me, not in the house, but in the courtroom today that you saw in the house?
Yes, sir. He's right there.
And for the record, you're pointing over to the defense table. What is the defendant wearing for purposes of our record?
He's wearing a plaid button-up shirt, a gray jacket, and glasses.
For the record, Deputy Walker has identified the defendant. Do you recall, Deputy, was the defendant wearing a shirt at that time?
No, sir.
So no shirt?
No shirt.
And did he have on a black pair of shorts and black shoes?
Yes, sir.
Did you notice any blood on his body?
None on his torso and none on his upper arms. It was only on his hands and forearms.
What happened next?
At that point, I began to secure the scene by putting crime scene tape around it, and after I was done with that, I was just waiting with Pibernick and waiting for supervision as well.
Did you see anybody wash the blood off the defendant outside or
EMS.
inside or anywhere?
EMS rinsed off his arms.
And at whose request was that?
I do not recall.
Did you think that was a little out of the ordinary?
Yes.
if it were up to you, would a individual standing over a dead body be preserved in the manner in which you?
Objection, Your Honor, almost for speculation. He's only on the job for 6 months.
Deputy Walker, as I was saying, if it were up to you and your duties and responsibilities, and you come into contact with somebody who's over the top of a dead person, would you try to keep them in the same state in terms of not letting them wash their hands or not letting them destroy evidence or get rid of anything?
Yes.
Now, did Deputy Pibernick then take the defendant outside?
Yes.
When you saw the defendant, describe his demeanor.
At first, he was in a somewhat manic state, but again, once he went outside, he was more calm and collected.
What happened when he was outside then?
Outside, he spontaneously uttered to me and Deputy Sheriff Pibernick that there was blood everywhere, and then it stopped bleeding, and then she was dead.
What were your responsibilities from that point on?
From that point on, the subject was then taken into custody and placed in the rear of my marked vehicle.
What was your opinion of the crime scene?
Objection calls for speculation.
Ruled that the question is unclear. Would you rephrase the question?
Yes, Your Honor. While you were inside at the crime scene, did you have an opportunity to observe the rooms that you thought were relevant? You understand that one?
Not really, no.
All right, you described the living room.
Mm-hmm.
You described where you saw the defendant. Did you actually then go into the kitchen and
Yeah.
see the scene in the kitchen?
Yes.
What did you see?
In the kitchen, I saw a large pool of blood around the subject's head and neck area, as well as blood spatter going up the side of the cabinet.
Did you move anything?
Didn't move anything, no.
And is that common to purposely not move things so that the integrity of the scene can be maintained?
Yes, sir.
Now, when the defendant was in the back seat of your car, what were you doing?
While he was in the back seat, I was in the front seat of my car, working on this report.
And what was the defendant's demeanor like when he was in your car?
Demeanor was still calm and collected.
Did he seem to have any concern or worry?
No.
Did he speak about anything to you?
Nothing genuinely. We were talking about, or I tried to spark up just normal conversation, ask him what video games he played.
And did he respond and talk about video games?
Yeah, he said he enjoyed strategic games.
Did his demeanor change at all when you interacted with him?
Little, it seemed more cheerful at the time, but still calm.
Was he then eventually taken to wherever you took him?
About some odd hours later, yes.
Okay. All right, Deputy Walker. I don't have any further questions for you.
Cross-exam.
Deputy Walker, Miss Griffith was lying on the floor in between a kitchen island and a kitchen cabinet, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Not a very wide space, was
No.
it? So really not any room for someone to be on the side of her to perform CPR, right?
Yes.
When you were talking to Collin, when he was in your car, you brought up video games, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you did that to try and distract him from what he had just seen and been through, right?
No, ma'am.
What were you doing talking to him about video games then?
Just trying to have a normal conversation.
A normal conversation with a child whose mom just died in front of him. Is that a yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Had you read him his Miranda warnings?
No, ma'am.
Any reason why not?
No, ma'am.
He was in your custody, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Handcuffed,
Yes, ma'am.
inside a car that he could not get out of,
Yes, ma'am.
and you started talking to him.
Yes, ma'am.
You know from your training that if you are going to talk to somebody who is under arrest, that you are required to read them their Miranda warnings, right?
Yes, ma'am.
That includes you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney, correct? And
Yes,
it
ma'am.
goes on from there. But you did not read those to him,
Yes, ma'am.
even though you were talking to him and asking him questions after you'd handcuffed him and put him in your car.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you get in trouble for violating your procedures?
No, ma'am.
Had you ever met Collin Griffith before this?
No, ma'am.
So you have no idea how he acts normally.
No, ma'am.
Have you ever had a parent die in front of you?
No, ma'am.
So you don't know how you would react
No.
when something like that happened, would you?
No, ma'am.
Have you listened to the 911 call in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, what's your opinion of Collin's demeanor then? He wasn't calm and collected, was he?
At the beginning, it sounded as if he was calm, and then towards whenever deputies arrived on scene, then he was more frantic.
Okay, so the 9 or so minutes between the beginning and the end, do you think he was normal?
At the beginning, yes, ma'am.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Redirect.
Just briefly. So, Deputy, as it pertains to Miranda warnings, is it a fair statement you weren't interrogating him or asking him anything about the case? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So, from that standpoint, did you feel any reason to read him Miranda warnings when you weren't interrogating him or asking him anything about the case?
No, sir.
Is talking about video games with someone, is that some devious plan of yours, or was it just conversation?
Just conversation.
All right, I have no further questions.
That's not being used against him.
Is there a question?
Ms. Thornhill, avoid the commentary.
The answer was
Avoid the commentary, please, unless there is a legal objection. Save it for argument.
Yes, sir.
Is the witness released?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Thornhill?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. All right, folks, it's about 2:30. We'll take our mid-afternoon recess of 15 minutes.
All rise, please.
Ms. Thornhill, you know better.
I do. You're right. I was just,
I understand.
Yeah.
But save the outrage for the appropriate phase of the trial, no matter how outrageous it may sound. Anything we need to take up, Mr. Levine?